We're live. We are live A-listers. There's no plan B for your A game, right? You're A-listers for a reason. That means you really have no options. The less options you have, the better off you are. The less options you have, the more championships you win. If you have the luxury of having options, you're probably going to lose. Okay? I know this sounds counterintuitive, correct? Given our society, right? But that's the only reason you're here, right? Because the people who are counterintuitive, who go counter to the culture, are the only people that work with me, right? Because those only people can get anything done. It's just true, guys. This is how it is. Okay, you guys, couple announcements, and then we're going to follow the same schedule we always do in the A-listers, which is I'm going to train you guys on one of my favorite subject matters, and it's so current given where we are this week. So I'm going to give you some training. Then we're going to open it up for Q&A. So get your questions ready, pop them into the chat. And Dawn is sitting right, 4 feet away from me, and she'll be grabbing those questions and then passing them on to me. I'll answer as many as I can, as succinctly as I can. And then I'm going to leave you with some marching orders for this week, right? So that we know that we're staying accountable to, this group that we have, which is in rarefied air if you think about it, right? There's a difference between players and fans. There's a difference between pros and amateurs. And that's where we operate, in that kind of rarefied air here for the few. Okay. One announcement is this. Our next live, right? Our next live, write this down, is February 23rd. February 23rd is our next A-listers live, okay? So we're going to be off for a couple of weeks. I got an opportunity to take my son to get some really amazing training in another state with a couple of amazing trainers. So I want to take advantage of that. So I'm going to go actually take him. So we'll miss that, every other week thing. And then we'll be back February 23rd. Get it down, because I'm sure on that trip, he and I are going to learn a lot more about, about the very things that you and I are talking about, because we're going to work with coaches who that's how they think. That's how they live their lives. And I'll pass that information on to you guys. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's get started. This week, what do we have happening this week? This week we have the Super Bowl happening, right? And I'm not a big fan of the Super Bowl per se. Okay. I'm not a fan of what they've turned this game into. Like, they've turned it into commercials, right? Like in the halftime show, right? So I'm not a fan of that. I'm a fan because I'm not a fan. I'm a player, and I'm going to pass on to you players that other players don't typically watch the Super Bowl, right? They don't, they don't want to see that halftime show. They don't want to see Lady Gaga, right? They don't want to see commercials that are silly and stupid, right? That's not what they came there. They turned on that TV to see people who had a dream for 20 years, and they're fulfilling on that dream. That's what I like to see. That's what players see, right? So that's why players typically don't watch the Super Bowl, even NFL players, right? Unless you're in it, but you don't watch it, you're in it. I want you guys and gals to start thinking more like that. You're not fans, you're players. So in this week's Super Bowl, there's some things happening. And just so you guys know, the theme for the day, the title for today is, I want to make your greatness predictable. Okay, I'm going to teach you today in the next 20 minutes how to make your greatness predictable, like the nose on your face, because greatness is always predictable. Okay. Predictably, who's in the Super Bowl this year? Oh my gosh, it's such a shocking revelation. There's one guy in the Super Bowl this year this is his 10th Super Bowl. 10th out of 20 years, 21 years, 10 Super Bowls. That's never happened, right? It's impossible. That can't happen unless your life is predictable. Okay? How would you like your life to be as predictable as the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady? He has led the Patriots to hit the 9 Super Bowls, right? So my brother, I have like a personal thing with this. My brother was the first quarterback to take the New England Patriots to a Super Bowl. Tom Brady has taken them to their next 9. So then what happens in the offseason? He gets traded or he leaves and he goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have no business being in the Super Bowl. They don't have the team to be in the Super Bowl. They've, when's that? That's been like 30 years since they've even been in the playoffs, right? But what is predictable? There is one guy on their team that is in half of the Super Bowls that he's able to be in. How would you like that life? Okay. Another thing just happened, right? So last week, we had the anniversary of Kobe Bryant's death. Right. So that brings up another current event, right? So when you think back of somebody as great and as the competitive spirit as Kobe Bryant has, you think back and you remember, right, what he meant to this world. Okay. His success, Kobe's success on the basketball court, the reason he holds all those records, the reason he has so many championships is it's predictable. So what do Kobe and Tom Brady have in common? Right? What do they have in common? Right? Let's think about it. So some of you may have seen this post last week. I'll repeat it. A story that when Axel, my son, who's 14 now, but when he's a little boy, Kobe Bryant was still playing for the Los Angeles Lakers. So I would take my son to see Kobe Bryant, but I didn't necessarily want to see him play in the game. I didn't want my son to see Kobe necessarily play in the game at Staples Center here in Los Angeles, but I wanted him to see something so he knew how predictable greatness is. So we would go 2 hours before anyone else was in Staples Center. So they opened Staples Center a few hours before the game begins, right? So me and Axel was a little boy, you guys, 7, 8, 9 years old when Kobe was playing. We would go to the games super early. We'd be right when the doors opened of Staples Center, me and my son would sprint in there, run all the way up the stairs, all the way down the stairs to the court, where I told Axel on the drive over that there would be Kobe Bryant on the court alone, and there would be a guy sweeping the floor down at the other end of the basketball court in Staples Center. There would be nobody else in there but you, Axel, me, your dad, Kobe Bryant, and the guy sweeping the playing surface. How did I know that? How was that so predictable? Because I knew Kobe Bryant is the last of a certain breed of player that is the ultimate competitor, a certain breed of player that takes ownership and complete responsibility of his team's wins and losses. That's who he is. That's who he is. So I knew he would be the first and only person on that court, while the other players who are going to compete with him and against him in just a few hours, where are they? I wonder where they are. Oh, I'm stuck in traffic, LA traffic, trying to get to Staples Center. Whoa. Oh, I had to check my Instagram account. Oh, I was late because, I just lost track of time. Excuse after excuse, after option B, after option B, after option B, it's predictable. We arrive at Staples Center. We go down to the court. Who's down there? Kobe Bryant getting extra work in. Now, he's already the greatest player in the game. Why is he getting extra work and the other guys aren't? Isn't that funny? Why aren't they even there? Because the guy who takes ownership of the team is there first and is there the longest. He's there earliest and he's there latest. Okay? Tom Brady can take the New England Patriots to 9 Super Bowls, which is unheard of, and then gets traded to a completely different team who has no experience, no history in playing in the Super Bowl. All of a sudden, oh darn, what a surprise. Tom Brady, predictably to you and me who are pros, is in the Super Bowl again and drag a bunch of people who don't even know how to be in a Super Bowl with him. He drugged 50 other dudes with him. Right? Because who owns that team? Is it the owner of the team? I don't even know who the owner of the team is, but he is the owner of the team, right? He owns whether they win or whether they lose, doesn't he? So who do you think is at the training facility before everybody else for this week and last week and every other week of his career? Who's at the training facility first? Tom Brady. Who's the last one to leave that training facility? Tom Brady. So are you starting to see a little trend here of predictability of greatness? Now, some of you right now might be going, well, Bo, come on, man. Kobe Bryant's gifted. Kobe Bryant's a prodigy. Tom Brady's just good looking and married to a supermodel and has a great family and is just lucky. None of those excuses, none of those plan Bs that you're throwing at me right now are accurate or truthful. That's an excuse. That's not true at all. At all. Anders Ericsson, the author of a book called Peak, P-E-A-K. Anders Ericsson, the godfather of what it takes to be great, has this most profound sentence, and I love the sentence, and it's simply 4 words. It says, well, it's more than 4 words, but the 4 words are what really matter. There is no such thing as a shortcut or a prodigy. There's no such thing as a shortcut or a prodigy when it comes to greatness. No such thing. So you can't say Tom Brady and Kobe Bryant are prodigies. They're not. You can't say Tom Brady and Kobe Bryant are lucky. You can't say that they took shortcuts to get there. They did not. You see how simple your life just became. You want your life to be predictable? Are you sure? Are you sure? I do. Whenever I give a speech, I want to know who's the best at speaking. I want to know who's the best at motivating people. I want to know who's the best at training people to be the best in the world at what they do. I want to measure myself against every other human being that does that in the history of that profession, right? So I want my life to be predictable. I want to be the best at that, so I make sure that I am. So I take ownership of it, right? And I see the competition and I see the history of the competition. And that is my goal. That is my dream every time. So my life becomes predictable. If I'm not the best at that, guess what? I know it. If Tom Brady's not the best at what he does, he knows it. If Kobe Bryant's the best, he knows it. I'll give you guys one quick thing, a quick little study that they did of NFL players. So I was an NFL player. And mind you, you guys, I use athletes as examples because I think if you're an author, if you're a speaker, if you're a mom, if you're a trainer, whatever your occupation is, if you thought of yourself like the most elite athletes do, right? Like if I went to writing my book like the greatest writer ever, like the greatest athletes do, and compete and play hard and show up day in and day out, guess what's going to happen to me being an author? It's going to be pretty predictable, right? I want you to treat your lives the same. We treat our lives too casually. We treat our dreams with no respect. We just hope it works out. Well, Kobe and Tom Brady, they don't hope it works out. They make sure it works out. They did a study of the players in the NFL. So when you're a player in the NFL and you get drafted, like I did, so me and my brother got drafted. That first contract that you get is relatively small than the second and third contract that you would get, right? But you got to stay healthy long enough, right, for 4 years or whatever the length of the contract is to make it to your second and third contract. Well, the player, you really make the good money in your second and third contract, okay? So not really in your first contract, relatively speaking. So they studied the players that make it to their second contract and the players that make it to their third contract. So these are the only players who really make any money in the NFL. The rest don't really make a lot, relatively speaking. What do you think? Because here's the deal. There's two things that those players that make it to the second contract and third contract, there's two things that those players do that the other players don't. Only two. Only two. We're gonna get really simple here. So if you were an NFL player and you just got drafted, and I came to you and I said, you got to do two things to get to your next contract and make $1 gazillion. You got to do two things to make it to your third contract and really move the dial financially for your family and all your ancestors. What if I told you to do two things? Would you do it? Would you do it? We'll see. I'm going to tell you those two things, but I think you already know what they are. They're predictable, right? They're the same things that Kobe Bryant did, and the same things that Tom Brady still does, okay? But let me ask you again, are you sure you want to know this? You sure you want to know? Because it's going to be predictable, right? So the only players that make it to their second and third contract do two things. One, they get to the training facility early before everybody else, 6:30 on average. So the training facility, usually the players arrive in between 8 and 9. But the players that make it to their second and third contract, they get there at 6:30. Okay, that's pretty simple. They arrive early. Pretty simple. The second thing they do to make it to their second and third contract and make big money that the rest of the players will not do is they get an ice bath after practice. So number one, they arrive early. Number two, they get in an ice bath. So what does that tell you? Those are the two simple things that most NFL players will never do, and only the greats do. What is it? Let's break it down. It seems to me that they arrive early and they stay late. And what else? Let's go a little bit deeper. What does that mean? If you arrive early and you stay late, what does that mean? So when I'm doing a speech, I know I'm the first one there, right? I see a lot of speakers just arrive backstage and walk on stage and go, hey, here I am. I'm not. I'm first there, right? I'm warmed up. I am activated. Same with the players. They are activated. When I used to do my one-man show in New York, the curtain opened at 8 o'clock every night in New York, right? And you have a matinee on the weekends and an evening show. So that, I know the curtain is at 8 o'clock. Do you know what time I arrived at that theater? 4 o'clock. That's when the activation began, the voice, the movement, the freedom that I needed to perform at 8 o'clock every single night in New York in front of the critics, okay? So I arrived early. I was activated. I didn't show up and put on a performance. That's what amateurs do. I also was the last person after the show to leave the theater. In fact, the only person left was the dude sweeping the stage. So get used to the person sweeping the surface that you're performing on, like Kobe Bryant, like me, okay? You're the first there, you're activated. You're the last to leave because you're recovered. The reason the players get into an ice bath after the performance, and this includes Tom Brady and Kobe Bryant, is they have to recover before they can come back the next day. So they get in the ice bath or some example thereof. You see what I mean? That's ownership of wins and losses. I owned my play. I performed my play. Do you think I'm going to do that in a half-assed manner? I had to get there early to give the proper performance, to give the proper movement, the voice, the line readings. That had to be to my satisfaction. I owned the performance. And then to be able to do that day in and day out, I had to recover afterwards, meaning ice bath, meaning no partying, meaning good nutrition. So it comes down to these simple facts. There are no prodigies. There are no shortcuts. You are there before anybody else is, getting yourself activated, and you stay for recovery. So in reality, you're kind of like the janitor of your company. So whatever your dreams are, you're the janitor of your dreams. That's cool. Guess why I love being the janitor of my dreams and the janitor of my performances? Same thing as Kobe, same thing as Tom Brady. Because you're turning the lights on, right? Because you're the first one there, and you're turning the lights off. That's typically what the janitor does, right? Now, the rest of the team and the rest of the players, they don't have to get there early, do they? Because they have no interest in being the best in the world. They have no interest in being elite. They have no interest in being world class. It's fine. That's fine. It is. They've made that choice. So and you know what they're like all the rest of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are doing right now? They can arrive whenever they want to arrive. Guess why? Guess why they can arrive at whatever? Because guess who's there? Guess who turned the lights on already? Guess who's been watching film for 2 hours? Who's been getting treatment on his body for another hour? Who's getting some weights in for another hour before anyone else even arrives? Tampa Bay knows they got a shot at winning because guess who's got the lights on? And then they go home. They go out for beers, whatever they do. They go, play with their kids, pick their kids up from school after practice. They're visiting, going, whatever they're doing socially, checking their Instagram accounts, Why can they do that? They can do that because one dude is in the ice bath. That's who us A-listers are. We're the Kobe Bryants, right? So the rest of the team didn't have to show up early. They don't have to stay late because he's already there. He's the one owning the team. So when the cameras come on after the game, they say, Kobe, how did you guys lose that game? Kobe goes, that was my bad. We lost. That was my bad. If Tom Brady loses this Super Bowl, they're going to put a camera in front of him, aren't they? And they're going to put a microphone in front of him. And it's Tom, why did you guys lose this Super Bowl? He goes, I should have played better. That's what he'll say. That's what's predictable. That's what he'll say. I should have played better. All greatness depends on us people like that. That's the good news, and that's also the bad news. I want you to be those guys in your dreams, in your life. They own the dream, right? They own their own dreams. They own the dream of the whole team. They're responsible for their own dreams. I don't know if you and me are. I don't know. Aren't we responsible for our own dreams? Are we responsible and taking ownership of fulfilling on those dreams? Yeah, we are. But we got built-in excuses if they don't work out, don't we? You know what? The world was against me. You know what? I lost. I got distracted and played video games, or decided the world was against me. Kobe and Tom Brady, they had those options too. They could have taken that route. They just didn't, which is why we're talking about them today. I want you to harness your greatness and make it so that it's 100% predictable. Okay? So that your wife or your husband or your family can go, you know what's predictable about mom? You know what's predictable about dad is we're going to friggin' win. They're going to come through. They always do. Because they take ownership over these dreams that we have as a family or as a company. They have the ownership. They show up early, they activate themselves, and then they perform. Then after the performance is over, they go into recovery or rehabilitation. They recover because they know the next day is anew. It's a brand new day and the battle begins anew right then. Okay? I know we live in a culture that it's not popular to take ownership or responsibility for your life. I know it's popular, which that's not our interest. No interest in popularity. I know it's popular to blame. I know it's popular to have a plan B and excuses for not having plan A work out. You weren't born in the right family. You don't live in the right community. You're not the right color. You're not the right gender. All these different things. It's popular to use these things. Taking ownership of our dreams. Well, if you want to be the best in the world and elite and world class in your field, then it's on you. And you're going to have to bring that thing into existence. Here's the good news. There's no competition. No one else is doing this, right? Because it's not popular right now. It's popular to blame and to put fault elsewhere. You know, I heard this sentence the other day from a health guru who you would all know their name if I said it. I said, what if I'm 300 pounds and I want to, lose weight? And he said, first of all, you better take ownership of those 300 pounds. That's on you. Okay, you're responsible. That's on you. As soon as you own that, now we can start losing some weight. Okay? I thought that was really good coaching. Because if you're not responsible for your dream, the dream's never coming true anyway. Because there's no one responsible for it. Tampa Bay Buccaneers would not be in the Super Bowl right now if Tom Brady didn't go to their team. Because somebody finally showed up in Tampa Bay and said, you know what? The Super Bowl is on me. I own that shit. Okay? I own whether we go there or not. That's what I want you to do. You guys, this may not be the easiest way to go. It is the only way for us A-listers to go. Okay? How are we doing time-wise, sweetie?
Good. We have
We're good?
We have a question here.
Good. So
on Instagram.
We have some questions. Listen to me, you guys, really quick on the questions. I want you to listen to the questions. And I want you to listen really. This is how I listen for questions. Is the questioner looking for a way out of this dream? Are they looking for a way to not be the owner of their life? See if that's embedded inside the question. Okay? And if I smell that, I'll name it right and get you back on your track. Look, for some of you, this might be the first day in your lives that somebody fought for you. More importantly, fought for your team or your dream or your family. I'm going to fight for your dream, for your family's dream, or for your team's dream. And you're going to have to take ownership of that team because I know you're the one watching. You're the one here. You're the one interested in victories. You're the one interested in being great or world class. Okay? Okay, good. Let me answer a couple.
Yeah. So I'm not sure 100% sure of his name, but maybe it's Christian. It says, I'd love to hear Bo talk about happiness and contentment on the journey to becoming the best.
Yeah, that very. Oh, it's an Instagram question.
But you can answer it there. But
I think it's Christian. Is it
I
Christian?
think it's Christian. Yeah, Christian Flynn.
Hey, Christian. Great. Thank you for the question. Here's the thing. Here's what most people do is they start off their life. They go, I just want to be happy. Um, what does that mean, really? Right? What does that mean? Um, I'm not so happiness and look, I'm not going to offend anybody here, but I want you to understand. So, do you think Tom Brady and Kobe Bryant and anybody elite ever set out to go like this? Well, I just want to achieve happiness. They didn't, right? They didn't. Happiness is for them, it is fleeting, right? It is for everybody, you know. Um, they're happiest when they're trying to achieve this greatness. That I don't know if you'd even call it happiness. It's called greatness. Every dream that I've had, on my way to those dreams, happiness came and happiness left. Happiness came and happiness left, right? But I was alive trying to achieve something. And these tiny moments that I did achieve it, fleeting little moments that you won a championship or that somebody's, you moved somebody. That I was happy in that moment. And then in the next breath I took, I wasn't no longer aiming to be happy again. I was trying to understand, how can I do that again? How can I do that again? So I wouldn't call it happiness. I would call it greatness. That I mean, that may be some of your goals, happiness. I don't know. And I I try to achieve world-class status. I try to get the most out of this organism. That's called self-actualization. We are all organisms put into this life, right? Against all odds. I think our job, Mother Nature has told me that our job as this organism, which you and me are, is to actualize all of its potential, this organism. I don't think Mother Nature ever intended, or God, if you will, ever intended for this organism to achieve happiness. It's to achieve, to actualize its full potential. And I think that's where happiness lives. It's a byproduct. It's not what I'm after. I'm after the fulfillment of this birthright. And that brings me happiness, that quest, that fleeting moment that I touch it. And then I fall back down to second place. And then I try to achieve it again. I think that's what life's about. I think that's the true happiness in life. Okay. Instead of happiness for happiness sake. Okay. Cool. I hope that's clear. And I hope I didn't offend anybody by that.
I have another. Okay, so there's a question, but then I kind of want to add to it. So one of them is just really about, you're always talking to Axel about being the first to arrive and the last to leave. And he might not want to or doesn't see the value in it, and how do you encourage and motivate him? I would just shift that a little bit, because obviously Axel's very conditioned now. He just does it.
Yeah.
But I like the new thing that we're working on with him, just about getting more sleep and then measuring things.
Yeah.
So we got him the Aura Ring, and now we have how you can use kind of measuring to keep yourself accountable. And you've even been doing it in different ways, your blood sugar.
Yeah, for sure. So most of us, if you're like I'll be 60 here next month, I think March. Yeah, March. So if you're my age or older or in 50s, we don't even know this word called recovery. It's a fairly new word for us, right? Recovery. It is huge, right? And it takes us who are my age and above and a little bit below. It takes, we have this, we grew up with pillows that were embroidered like you can sleep when you're dead, right? We grew up with those kind of messages. So I did too, right? But I've learned, as my kids are growing up, that recovery, you have to be a champion at that too, right? So Axel, you're right. He is conditioned because of those incidents with Kobe Bryant. And, he got to meet Kobe Bryant a few times. He had a nice little visit with him. He knows how that guy's made, right? So, and he's been around, Super Bowl quarterbacks, and he's been around those people. So he saw what it takes. He knows what it takes. And he's been conditioned over a life. He's 14 now, that he now does it on his own, right? He's that part of him will never leave him, but because he knows for his teams. So if he plays on teams for the next 30 years, he knows that the winning and the losing of those teams is on his shoulders. He's responsible for that, right? Now, some of you don't want to throw that kind of responsibility on your kids. I get it, right? And sometimes we have to lighten his load so that he can get some breathing room around it, right? So he knows that to win, he's going to have to be first to arrive. He's going to have to activate his body before everybody else. And he's going to have to get extra work where other people don't. But since this recovery, we're trying to turn him into a championship recoverer now, there's all kinds of technology and all kinds of measuring devices that are helping Dawn and I with Axel about this. So like this Aura ring, for example, Aura ring, Dawn and I both wear them. Axel wears it now too, because it measures your sleep. It measures your quality of sleep, your REM sleep, your deep sleep, your light sleep. It measures your heart rate. It measures your heart rate variability, all of these things that I didn't know anything about. But it measures everything because, when you're a teenager, sleep's important for all of us, correct? But for teenage boys trying to be athletic and fulfill on their bodies, very important, right? It's crucial. So now we can give him extra sleep, and we know that that's important, where it used to not be important back in my day. So there's all kinds of measuring devices which we use to help us with that. Along with this, physical fitness is always being measured by the people, the scientists who measure elite athletes. They assess elite athletes, right? Which is what Axel wants to be. So at the age of 12, we started having Axel measured and assessed by the very same scientists who assess every elite athlete. So we see where he stands. And more importantly, he sees where he matches up or measures up against somebody like a Kobe Bryant or somebody like a Tom Brady. That's very important to know so that you know where you stand, and now you can adapt and start to catch up to them. Okay? So you want to look at how you measure up against the rest of the people in your field, whether it's writing, speaking, being a mom, being a dad, being I don't care I don't care. It doesn't matter. Pick an occupation. What's your occupation? What do you want to be world class at? Let's measure that. Let's measure who gets there first. Let's measure who stays last. Let's measure who recovers. Let's measure how what you feel about your performance and what the world feels about your performance. And let's start to see. Now, eventually, this is my dream for all of you. Eventually, so this is how Tom Brady and Kobe Bryant have set up their lives. Eventually, it's only Kobe versus Kobe. He's not competing with anybody in basketball out there on the court. Tom Brady's not competing against any other quarterbacks or any other players for that matter in a football game. He's competing against his last performance. Axel, I want it to get it to the point where he's not competing with any other elite athlete. He's only competing with himself measured against his last performance. This is what I want for you. This is what I want for me. I want you versus you. Isn't that cool? You versus you. You're only measuring yourself against your last performance, against your last book, against your last speech, against your last interaction with your kids or your team. I want you measuring you like that. Because if you do what I say, or more importantly, if you just do what I do and what I have my family and my clients do, then here's the promise. You're going to be world class. Guess where you're going to end up? You're going to end up at the top. Why do I know that? Because how did we start this live? It is predictable. It's simple. It's predictable. I know it's going to happen because I've seen it happen over and over and over again all my life. That's predictable. It's like I'm looking into a crystal ball. But, if you want to opt for something else, which I can feel you, right? I can feel you on this live. I can feel you wanting to go to a plan B. I can feel you wanting to lessen the load. I can feel you wanting to opt instead of for the gold medal. I can feel you starting to opt for maybe a bronze is good enough. Don't do that. You don't, it's not in your DNA to do that. So you're flying directly in the face of Mother Nature and your own makeup if you're going to do that. It's a harder road for you. Okay. What else, babe?
All right, well, we're ready to wrap, and we have one final question, and it's what will you be doing while the Super Bowl is on? Do you watch? Do you watch the game? And if yes, what are you watching for? Yeah,
so I will watch usually with the commentary down. It depends on who's doing the commentary on the game, because you're usually not getting what's really happening. So it's not for me. I know what's really happening during the game because I have enough experience, but I don't want my son to hear lies, right? So it's just like the news, right? Like the news comes on and they're going, everybody's going to die and there's a hurricane about to hit and whatever they say. I don't let my kids listen to that either, right? Because that's made up, right? It's like a drama going on. So I protect my kids' dreams because what the commentary is about is nobody's dreams, right? It's about Lady Gaga and it's about God knows, commercials. So I was once at a Super Bowl party, God forbid, but I was at a Super Bowl party, and when the commercials came on, all the party goers crashed into the room where the TV was and was like laughing at the commercials, ladies and gentlemen. The only reason there is a commercial is because there was 50 guys on one team and 50 guys on another team who had a dream when they were little kids. And they fought this dream and they skipped the prom and they sacrificed a lot of surgeries and a lot of time, effort, money, and everything else to be in this Super Bowl, which is going to be now turned into a dog and pony show of a halftime show, of which I'm going to see some slacker sing, right? Or some commercial where, we're supposed to laugh at some horse that, drinks beer. Okay? That's what it's turned into. So we're not doing that.
I'll film you so you actually act like while you're watching the Super Bowl. And also Eloise is cooking for us.
Huh?
And Eloise is cooking to the whole
Eloise, my daughter who's 16, who wants to be a great chef, right? She's on her way. She'll be cooking all kinds of cool things for us to eat. And we'll be watching this game minus the fake commentary, right? I don't want, and minus the pretend commercials, right? We leave when the commercials are on, right? Where most people go, it's a commercial. We don't watch commercials, right? What are commercials for, right? Have you ever seen greatness on a commercial? Have you ever, guess why? Because nothing is ever on there that anybody great would buy. Am I right? Am I right? I'm right, right? Unless they start putting commercials on that are about greatness, then I'll watch, right? It's not. It's about beer or Doritos or whatever, everything in between, okay? Uh, you see how it is to live with me? You want to come over and watch it with me? Axel and I will be watching it and trying to figure out how to win the game for each team. How will these two quarterbacks win this game for their team, right? How will they do that? Okay. Always figuring out the strategy to win at all times. And I'm always reaffirming this. Say Tom Brady falls behind by 20 points. Oh, and what's the commentary going to say right then? There's no way he can win. He has no confidence. Look at his body language. They're going to be saying all kinds of lies, aren't they? I don't want my son hearing that shit. That's amateur hour. I'm talking in his ear like, you know what? Do you think this game's over for Tom Brady? No, it is not. Not in his mind. He doesn't care if he's down by 100 points and there's a minute to go. He thinks he's still got a chance to win. That's what I want my son to hear. That's what he's going to hear. And my daughters are going to be there too. That's what they're going to hear. We are always in the fight, right? We don't lose. When we lose, we win, right? I want you all to start taking on this kind of mindset. It's a whole different world. It's very upsetting for amateurs that are in your sphere. Okay. Here is the, I got something in my eye. Here is the marching orders that I want you to take into this week, right? How are you going to harness, right, this greatness that you have, that Kobe Bryant has, had, that Tom Brady has? How are you going to harness and take responsibility and ownership of the greatness that you have this week? I want to hear that in the comments, you guys. And now I think I don't know if this is true, but I think when you guys hear me, talk like this, you go, well, Bo's life must be no fun. I never think of fun. That's fun to me. Figuring out how to win is fun for me. Being competitive and measuring myself, that's fun for me. That's life for me. Okay? That requires everything that a human being has. That's fun. That's what life's about. Right? And whether you win or whether you lose, that's still a blast because you're demanding of yourself and you're fulfilling, you're actualizing on this organism that you are, while the rest of the world is distracted by everything else, right? You're locked in on your own potential, right? Trying to fulfill that. Isn't that why we're here in the first place? Isn't it, in the end, isn't that why we're here? I think so. I think so. So start to harness this spirit of these people that I've been talking about today, the ownership, the responsibility, the no option that they have of championships. There's no other options for them. What did George Washington say the morning before they crossed the Delaware? When the American army was through, we were down to 2,400 soldiers. We were done. The war was over. We were not going to have an America. What did George Washington write on a little piece of paper and then drop it inside of his tent? What did he say? Victory or death is what he said. Victory or death. That's why we have a country. There was no options. The only option was not a great option, right? When victory is the only option, you usually win. When you've got the luxury and you think you're entitled to not win, to not fulfill on this organism, that's when you lose. That's when you start blaming the rest of the world. Okay? You know the spirit that I demand of you. Okay? Match that spirit all week. And then do a little experiment. See how long you can keep that up. Okay? All right. All right, guys. Love you. Great work. I know this is heavy sledding, right? But this is where we're going to go. Because look, you're not here. You're not here to go, oh, you're not here to hear this. Oh, it's not your fault. You're lazy. Oh, it's not your bad that you can't get anything done. It is. It's your responsibility. It's your ownership. But if it's your ownership, now you can take it on. Now you can make a change, make a difference. That's what I want you to do this week. Okay. All right, guys. We'll see you on February 23rd for our next live. Good job. We'll see you. Bye.